Hey, good morning everybody. BDF 44 coming at you with another video. Alright, so I figured I'd do a quick therapy session before starting my morning. Hope everybody's having a good day. It's still very, very cold in LA, which is a vast contrast from what it was about a month and a half ago where I was complaining about how hot it was. Maybe 2 months ago. But yeah, vast changes in the weather. Nothing worth talking about. Obviously we've talked so much about everything that has to do with the Kyrie Irving, Kanye West, Jewish people, censorship, however the conversation is best to be described. And we've talked about the six things that Kyrie Irving must do to get back on the court with the Brooklyn Nets, which is just belittling to no end. And I can't believe there's an entire corporate structure behind this that unanimously thinks that this is the best course of action. And the only thing that I can think of, if I'm to remove my my point of view completely, is to say that if I were in control of trying to keep people in line who happen to be very rich, there would have to be some measures taken to get them to comply across the board. For example, maybe Kyrie Irving's not the worst version of this, but if they don't apply a method that deters this behavior, the next version of this will be more difficult to apply that method to, because you didn't stay consistent. But that's the problem. Where is the consistency? We don't see this type of behavior applied to every athlete and every offense in regards to this type of thing. We do not. This is something specific for Kyrie, and because it looks specific to Kyrie, it looks wrong. We don't see the six things given. We don't see the sensitivity training methods. We don't see the trickle down reporting of him being a bad guy. We don't see none of this with other situations. And so in my mind, I'm like, I didn't hear of Sarver having to go through all of this, did he? I don't remember them illustrating how bad of a guy he was to this degree. They reported it as a scandal. They said he was a bad guy, got him out of here, that was it. With Kyrie, it's like, you would swear he did something much worse. And while in a lot of people's minds, because of what anti-Semitism can mean, what it should mean, it is the worst thing in the world, because what it should mean is that you are igniting people to hurt Jewish people. You're igniting people to belittle them and talk crazy to them, talk down to them. You're igniting a posse against them, or a mob against them, or whatever. That to me is hate speech. I thought a good version of hate speech would be what the KKK does when they talk about certain things that they run regularly. That's hate speech, because the basis of what they're talking about is hateful. There's no way for me to walk in there and get along even at my best, because this is what they're against, not anything logical. So that's what I'm saying. That's hate speech. This ain't hate. This ain't hate. This is a difference in opinion. Maybe a few insulting things may have been put in the documentary, and I haven't seen the documentary, so I don't know what they are. And I think that's the responsibility of those who are trying to hold Kyrie accountable. It's your responsibility to let us know what's offensive within the documentary, right? So that we have an understanding of how offended we should be. No different than when I was speaking on the Udoka thing. Well, you gotta let us know more information so we know how offended we should be. Josh Primo, same thing. We gotta know more information so we know how offended we should be. It's always the same thing in regards to these stories that are being released on the transgressions of African Americans. So I don't know. I'm not supposed to see the race card in this. I'm a bad guy for bringing up the race card, but it's a racial conversation, because what they're doing is using the fact that this is a racial subject as a mean of punishing a person of color. So that is in fact a racial conversation in and of itself. So with that being said, I understand that they finally faced the hypocrisy to some degree. Someone representing the Brooklyn Nets sent a letter to Amazon asking that they remove Hebrews to Negroes from the website. So at least that has now been addressed to some degree, even though not to my satisfaction. At least they've acknowledged that that was something that would be reasonable in regards to the steps that they're taking and the offense that they have for what's being sold there. So to me, that's the only way to go. You got to make it make sense, and they've done very little to do that. What they have done is shown us how they attack who they define as their enemies. That's what they've shown us, is how wrathful they can be and how afraid I should be for ever speaking out against them. It ain't work. It didn't work. Not with me anyway. It didn't work with Royce Wright either. I believe his name is Royce Wright, a basketball player who was not allowed to play basketball because his mental health concerns didn't allow him to fly, and the NBA rejected him, completely rejected him, and the media bashed him and made a joke out of his mental health concerns, and essentially told all of us that he was a joke, and anybody who has a fear of flying is a joke for wanting to be to have accommodations met for them. So that was his story, and now he's speaking out against what they're doing because, of course, he's not behind the paywall, so he has the right to do so. See, everybody else in the NBA has to face the consequences that Kyrie's facing, or worse if they speak out. That's why you don't see Shaq speaking out. That's why LeBron is being careful not to support Kyrie. That's why all of them are turning their back on Kyrie in such a way that offends us, because that's what it's supposed to do. No different than the display of Kyrie being treated this way is supposed to scare us. So is LeBron James's way of speaking and all of the different subordinates. They are too scared of those consequences, which is why they speak that way, is what I'm saying. Afraid of losing what they have, afraid of offending their friends, afraid of maybe even some other consequences that might take place in the dark for offending them this way. So it's one of those situations where it's like, yes, am I upset that many aren't speaking out in support of the injustice that is the the buck breaking that is taking place to Kyrie Irving. But I understand that there are also two broken bucks. That's a fact. Bound by the Bucks, ironically. Money. And you know, I look at guys like Charles Barkley. They have their own opinions or whatever. He has a right to his opinion. He has friends and family that may be Jewish people, so I understand he's going to take offense to that. If I had family members that were Jewish, I would definitely want to understand anti-Semitism and then be offended by it. But I'd have to first understand it. And what I do understand is that it is not defined properly. It is not defined in a way that properly structures out who should get what in regards to being labeled as such. It is blanketed, and that is just bad math in my mind. So I would tell someone like Charles Barkley, that's the focus. If you want to be mad at people for being anti-Semites, I'm mad at them too. But let's first make sure that the word itself is described in a way that properly defines what the hate is, and not just a blanketed way of keeping people from asking questions about a certain group and keeping people from looking at a certain group as someone to be held accountable. And I think that there's plenty here to see that there's much to look at in regards to that. And I don't think that anyone in any aspect of this conversation could look at the facts, listen to the listen to the people who have something to say in regards to both sides, and then say there's not a conversation necessary to be had in order for peace to happen going forward. Peace, not compliance, but actual love and peace, not forcing people to comply and agree, because that does not create real peace. See, that creates a dangerous environment, and that's what I think the forefathers did not take into account. Once you say they mean more than them, now them are mad at they. Simple as that. And it's incumbent upon those in power to understand that and do a much better job going forward of not pushing that on the people from behind the scenes, when you can hide and not be affected by what transpires when it happens. That's what I have to say about that situation. I just don't like the fact that people can hide behind the scenes, stir up a pot where a lot can go wrong, and then sit comfortably far away and watch it happen and be offended by what they see. That is the behavior there. I don't like it. So it's a lot to look at, man. It ain't just Kyrie Irving's offense. Kyrie Irving did what he did, just shined a light on what was actually wrong. No different than Kanye West. They shined a light on what was actually wrong. However they did it, however we got here, you can look at them and hold them accountable as you see fit. But do not think that there aren't people looking at you, holding you accountable as well. That is what I am. I'm a consumer who enjoys the products of these people that I'm talking about. Shaq, I grew up with Shaq on my wall. I'm a Laker fan, right? So there's no Brandon without the appreciation of what Shaq provided our family. But I don't identify with his behavior. I think he's more protecting the things that matter to him, that affect him, and I don't understand that. I understand Shaq to be an unselfish guy. He used to give to the kids, and the same people who are affected by this conversation are the same people who used to go and give toys to in the hoods. I don't know this Shaq. I don't understand this Shaq. This version of Shaquille, I don't get it. You're too big, too dominant of a human being to let people push you around over some damn money. And I'm just going to tell the truth. That's what he's being pushed around, bro. And your opinion is not your own, brother. And I say the same thing to LeBron James. I know the clock says it ain't time to push back. But what I am saying is sometimes the clock is not something you can control. Sometimes God's time hits. Sometimes you look up and you say, wow, my schedule ain't meeting the times, but let's just face it. If I go forward like I normally do, it ain't gonna move like it's been moving. You gotta understand where a new fork in the road just hit. Like, damn. Well, now if I handle this the way I handled everything else, it's gonna take me on a completely different path, because now I'm gonna be seen a different way. You guys gotta know when the people have changed. That's the bottom line. You gotta know when the people have changed. I say the same thing to everybody behind the scenes. On any side of this coin, you got to know when the tide has turned in regards to the sentiment of the humans around. We don't want to see people broken in the way that you're breaking Kyrie Irving, regardless if they're wrong or right. That's the point. We don't want to see it regardless if they're wrong or right. We want people disciplined in a different way. That's more humane, that takes into account the energy that they're putting out, and it takes into account the ignorance that they may have about what it is the offense was. If that's not going to be taken into account, you're doing it wrong. So these are the type of things that I, like as a consumer, as a person, as a black person with an opinion, I expect my opinion to be held accountable for by those who are looking to say, yo, he ain't speaking right, but I want those things to be properly defined. If I say the word blue, don't tell people I'm saying red. That's all I'm saying in regards to that. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I don't like any of this. You guys know I don't like any of this. My words have been colorful in regards to this to a degree, but, you know, at the end of the day, I'm just looking at an injustice taking place in real time against people that look like my kind, and that's always a problem. Not only because of how it makes me feel, but because of how it makes others feel. Because of what it does when that happens. You know, we got enough in our world right now than to be having to go back to where we were in 2020 when everything was racially motivated and heightened and frustrating. And nevertheless, we seem to find ourselves in these situations. Anytime election time is about to come around, all of a sudden it's time to go for a race battle. Now it's time to see the blacks versus the whites, the blacks versus the Jews, or what have you. I'm tired of it. It's orchestrated, it's organized, and it's irritating. And while I think the conversation is necessary, the sparking of said conversation never is. Not the means from which we get here. And that's what I've been praying a lot about. It's like, how the hell did we get here? How are we in a space where people are angry at each other for no reason? Again, because of the opinions of some and the reactions of those opinions. And it's not a thing. When you look at the people who are doing what they're doing, yes, Kanye stirred up a lot, but we understand Kanye is dealing with a lot here. We've seen him deal with a lot for a long time. So anybody that's surprised or offended by his behavior at this point, I don't know what to tell you. He is what he is. Kyrie Irving posted something. He literally just used his phone like I'm doing right now, pushed a few buttons, and that was it. And now all of a sudden his entire image is being plastered in a certain way. His intentions are being lied about, literally. Let's Kaepernick the entire intentions. And now, once again, just like the Kaepernick situation, with the white nationalists who, you know, love the flag more than they love anything else. Now, you got the Jewish people who, their faith is tied up in their opinions. They're not about to sway on this. You know what I mean? They're not going to sway on this. And because it's a arguable conversation that has been long suppressed in regards to the black people being the people of Judah or what have you, it's almost like it's disrespectful for us to even bring any evidence or conversation to the table. All the books that you look for in regards to these different subjects are priced too high or banned. I mean, you can't find the information necessary to make yourself knowledgeable. But you can certainly be punished for being ignorant. And so I say, if your information is hidden, then the only thing that the people can rely upon is that their opinion does not matter, only that their compliance does, as I said before. That's it. It reminds me of when I used to, as a little kid, I used to ask my daddy in the car, where we going? None of your business. We'll get there, you'll see. Same thing. Only they ain't my daddy. They're just acting like they him. See, that's the problem. They didn't have my best interest in heart. My father did. I knew wherever we were going, he was going to make sure we were safe and we could get me home. Them? Nah, that's not the case. Not safe, not home. So that's the reality of it, man. I don't know who's holding us accountable. I don't know why. They ain't coming from behind the curtain saying my name is this and this is what I'm offended by in this documentary and that is why. No pride in that regard. Just standing behind the curtain, punching at people that they wouldn't want to fight in real life. Doing things to people, belittling them in ways that they wouldn't do if they were locked in a room with them by themselves. This is reality. You're cowards. You know, cowards. No different than the people that they're got their thumb underneath and refuse to talk because they're afraid of losing everything. Cowards, all of them. Cowardice leading cowards. And I feel like it's time for someone who's not a coward to speak up. So that's what I'm doing. So, whether they feel they are this or they represent the people, even though I know they don't represent the people because they're making the people lives more difficult by creating this nonsense from behind the curtain. And I hope the people are smart enough to see it. But they say they represent the people. Fine. And the best way to represent the people, educate the people who are pointed at them. So we're not ignorant in our actions. Educate us. Make the book affordable. Make the movie free. Make sure that everybody sees it. That's the best way to handle this. And then you do the documentary, you know what you do? You stop and pause and you do a edited version of the documentary. You do a collaboration with the man who made the documentary and you do pointers. You sit down with leaders, Hebrew leaders and Jewish leaders, and you do a different version of the documentary. You add an extra 35 minutes to that documentary, breaking down each and everything that is not responsibly put in that documentary. You know what else you do? Then you point out everything that has real doctrine attached to it, things that may be real and actual fact in the documentary. Then you get together with people who can help put the DNA together, Ancestry.com and all these different companies that know how to put the DNA together, and you debunked this conversation once and for all on national television, just like you would do with any other political situation, because that would settle the people, give us an understanding of who we are, give us an understanding of who they are, and we can move forward together. But y'all ain't gonna freaking do that, are you? No. You're gonna keep on playing the way you are. Why? Because you want to stir people up, have us pissed off at each other so you can make it look funny for your election time. That's what it is. You want to rile people up so they'll vote a certain way. And guess what? We see you. We see you. You ain't low. Some of us are talking. BDF 44. Thank you all for watching.